So this is day 48, and we're starting in Numbers chapter 3. This is the family history of Aaron and Moses at the time the Lord talked to Moses on Mount Sinai. Aaron had 4 sons. Nadab was the firstborn son. Then there were Abu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These sons were chosen to be priests. They were given the special work of serving the Lord as priests. But Nadab and Abihu died while serving the Lord. They used fire that the Lord did not allow when they made an offering to him. So Nadab and Abihu died there in the desert of Sinai. They had no sons, so Eleazar and Ithamar took their place and served the Lord as priests. This happened while their father Aaron was still alive. The Lord said to Moses, "Bring all the men from the tribe of Levi. Bring them to Aaron the priest. These men will be his helpers. The Levites will help him when he serves at the meeting tent, and they will help all the Israelites when they come to worship at the holy tent. The Israelites should protect everything in the meeting tent. It is their duty, but the Levites will serve the Israelites by caring for these things. This will be their way of serving at the holy tent. Give the Levites to Aaron and his sons." The Levites were chosen from all the Israelites to help Aaron and his sons. "Appoint Aaron and his sons to be priests. They must do their duty and serve as priests. Anyone who tries to come near the holy things must be killed." Dun, 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 dun. The Lord also said to Moses, "I destroyed all the firstborn in Egypt at the time I chose all the firstborn from every family in Israel to be mine in a special way. That included all the firstborn men and animals. But now I am choosing the Levites to take their place. Now they will be my special servants. I, the Lord, give this command." The Lord again said to Moses in the desert of Sinai, "Count all the families and family groups in the tribe of Levi. Count every man or boy who is 1 month or older." So Moses obeyed the Lord. He counted them all. Levi had 3 sons. Their names were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Each son was the leader of several family groups. The Gershon family groups were Libni and Shimi. The Kohath family groups were Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzal. The Merari family groups were Mali and Mushi, spelled M-U-S-H-I. These are the families that belong to Levi's family group. The families of Libni and Shimi belonged to the family of Gershon. They were the Gershonite family groups. There were 7,500 men and boys over 1 month old in these 2 family groups. The Gershonite family groups were told to camp in the west. They made their camp behind the holy tent. The leader of the family groups of the Gershonites was Elisaph, son of Lael. In the meeting tent, the Gershonites had a job of taking care of the holy tent, the outer tent, and the covering. They also took care of the curtain at the entrance of the meeting tent. They cared for the curtain in the courtyard, and they cared for the curtain at the entrance of the courtyard. This courtyard was around the holy tent and the altar. They cared for the ropes and everything that was used with the curtains. The families of Amram, Izhar, Hebron, Uzal belonged to the family of Kohath. They were the Kohathite family groups. In this family group, there were 8,300 men and boys 1 month old or over. The Kohathites were given the job of taking care of the things in the holy place. The Kohathite family groups were given the area to the south of the holy tent. This is the area where they camped. The leader of the Kohathite family groups was Elisaphan, son of Uzal. Their job was to take care of the holy box, the table, the lampstand, the altars, and the dishes of the holy place. They also cared for the curtain and all the things that were used with the curtain. The leader over the leaders of the Levites was Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest. Eleazar was in charge of everyone who took care of the holy things. The family groups of Mahi and Mushi belonged to the Merari family. There were 6,200 men and boys who were 1 month old or older in the Mali family group. The leader of the Merari family group was Zuriel, son of Abihail. This family group was given the area to the north of the holy tent. This is the area where they camped. The people from the Merari family were given the job of caring for the frames of the holy tent. They cared for all the braces, posts, bases, and everything that was used with the frames of the holy tent. They also cared for all the posts in the courtyard around the holy tent. This included all the bases, tent pegs, and ropes. Moses, Aaron, and his sons camped east of the holy tent in front of the tent of meeting. They were given the work of caring for the holy place. They did this for all the Israelites. Anyone else who came near the holy place was to be killed. The Lord commanded Moses and Aaron to count all the men and boys 1 month old or older in Levi's family group. The total number was 22,000. Well done, Levi. The Lord said to Moses, "Count all the firstborn men and boys in Israel who are at least 1 month old. Write their names on a list. I am the Lord. I will take the Levites instead of all the firstborn men and boys of Israel. I will also take the animals from the Levites instead of taking all the firstborn animals from all the other people in Israel." So Moses did what the Lord commanded. He counted all the firstborn children of the Israelites. He listed all the firstborn men and boys who were 1 month old or older. There were 22,273 names on that list. The Lord also said to Moses, "I, the Lord, give this command. Take the Levites instead of all the firstborn men from the other families of Israel, and I will take the animals of the Levites instead of the animals of the other people. The Levites are mine." There are 22,000 Levites, but there are 22,273 firstborn sons from the other families. This leaves 273 more firstborn sons than Levites. Using the official measure, collect 5 shekels of silver for each of the 273 people. The shekel by the official measure weighs 20 gerahs. Gerah! Collect that silver from the Israelites. Give the silver to Aaron and his sons as a payment for the 273 Israelites. There were not enough Levites to take the place of all the men from the other family groups, so Moses gathered the money from them. Moses collected the silver from the firstborn men of the Israelites. He collected 1,365 shekels of silver using the official measure. Moses obeyed the Lord's command and gave the silver to Aaron and his sons. He did it just as the Lord had told him. Now, Numbers chapter 4. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Count the men in the families of Kohath family group." The Kohath family group is part of Levi's family group. Count all the men from 30 to 50 years old who come to serve. These men will work in the meeting tent. Their job is to take care of the most holy things in the meeting tent. When the Israelites travel to a new place, Aaron and his sons must go into the meeting tent and take down the curtain and cover the box of the agreement with it. Then they must cover all of this with the covering made from fine leather. Then they must spread the solid blue cloth over the leather and put the poles in the rings on the holy box. Then they must spread a blue cloth over the holy table. Then they must put the plates, spoons, bowls, and the jars for drink offerings on the table. Put the special bread on the table. Then you must put a red cloth over all of these things. Cover everything with fine leather, and put the poles in the rings of the table. Then they must cover the lampstand and its lamps with a blue cloth. They must also cover all the things used to keep the lamps burning and all the jars of oil that are used in the lamps. Then wrap everything in fine leather. Then they must put all these things on poles used for carrying them. They must spread the blue cloth over the golden altar. They must cover that with fine leather. Then they must put the poles for carrying it in the rings on the altar. Then they must gather together all the special things that are used for worship in the holy place. They must gather them together and wrap them in a blue cloth. Then they must cover that with fine leather. Then they must put these things on a frame for carrying them. They must clean the ashes out of the bronze altar and spread a purple cloth over it. Then they must gather all the things that they used for worship at the altar. These are the fire pans, forks, shovels, and the bowls. They must put these things on the bronze altar. Then they must spread a covering of fine leather over the altar and put the poles for carrying it in the rings on the altar. Aaron and his sons must finish covering all the holy things in the holy place. Then the men from the Kohath family can go in and begin carrying these things. In this way, they will not touch the holy things and die. Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, will be responsible for the holy tent. He will be responsible for everything in it, including the holy things. He will be responsible for the oil for the lamp, the sweet-smelling incense, the daily offering, and the anointing oil. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Be careful. Don't let the Kohathite men be destroyed. You must do all these things so the Kohathite men can go near the most holy things and not die." Aaron and his sons must go in and show each Kohathite man what to do and what to carry. If you don't do this, the Kohathite men might go in and look at the holy things. If they look at these things even for a moment, they must die. The Lord said to Moses, "Count all the people of the Gershon family. List them by family and family group. Count all the men who are from 30 to 50 years old who come to serve. These men will have the job of caring for the meeting tent. This is what the Gershonite family must do and the things they must carry. They must carry the curtains of the holy tent, the meeting tent, its covering, the covering made from fine leather. They must also carry the curtain at the entrance of the meeting tent. They must carry the curtains of the courtyard that are around the holy tent and the altar. They must carry the curtain for the entrance of the courtyard. They must also carry all the ropes and all the things that are used with the curtains. The Gershonite men will be responsible for anything that needs to be done with these things. Aaron and his sons will watch. Aaron and his sons will watch all the work that is done. Everything the Gershonites carry and the other work they will do will be watched by Aaron and his sons. You must tell them that they are responsible for carrying. This is the work that the men of the Gershonite family group must do for the meeting tent. Ithamar, son of Aaron the priest, will be responsible for their work. Count all the men in the families and family groups of the Merari family group. Count all the men who are from 30 to 50 years old and come to serve. These men will do a special work for the meeting tent. When you travel, it is their job to carry the frames of the meeting tent. Special. They must carry the braces, the posts, and the bases. They must also carry the posts that are around the courtyard. They must carry the bases, the tent pegs, the ropes, and everything that is used for the poles around the courtyard. List the names and tell each man exactly what he must carry. This is what the people from the Merari family will do to serve in the work for the meeting tent. Ithamar, son of Aaron, will be the priest who is responsible for their work. Moses, Aaron, and the leaders of the Israelites counted the Kohathites. They counted them by family and family groups. They counted all the men from 30 to 50 years old who were able to serve. These men were given special work to do for the meeting tent. There were 2,750 men in the Kohath family group who were qualified to do this work. So these men from Kohath family group were given their special work to do in the meeting tent. Moses and Aaron did this the way the Lord had told Moses to do. Also, the Gershonite family group was counted. All the men from 30 to 50-year-old who qualified to serve were counted. These men were given their special work to do for the meeting tent. There were 2,630 men in their families of the Gershon family group who were qualified. So these men from the Gershon family group were given their special work to do for the meeting tent. Moses and Aaron did this the way the Lord had told Moses to do. Also, the men in the families and family groups of the Merari family were counted. All the men from 30 to 50 years old who qualified to serve were counted. These men were given their special work to do for the meeting tent. There were 3,200 men in the families of the Merari family group who were qualified. So these men from the Merari family group were given their special work. Moses and Aaron did this the way the Lord told Moses to. So Moses, Aaron, and the leaders of the Israelites counted all the people in Levi's family group, and they counted each family and each family group. All the men between the ages of 30 and 50 were given a special work to do for the meeting tent. They did the work of carrying the meeting tent when they travelled. The total number was 8,580. Each man was counted just as the Lord commanded Moses. Each man was given his own work and told what he must carry as the Lord had said. So now we're up to Numbers chapter 5. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell the people to send away from the camp anyone who is unclean, that is, anyone who has a serious skin disease or discharge, or anyone who has touched a dead body. Whether they are a man or a woman, send them away from the camp. So where I am living among you will not be made unclean." So the Israelites obeyed God's command. They sent those people outside the camp. They did what the Lord told Moses. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell this to the Israelites. You might do something wrong to another person. When you do that, you are really sinning against God. So you are guilty of doing wrong. You must confess that sin, and then you must fully pay for the wrong that you did. You must add 1/5 to the payment and give it all to the person you had done wrong to. But maybe the person is dead and does not have any close relatives to accept the payment. In that case, you will give the payment to the Lord. That is, you will give the full payment to the priest. The priest must sacrifice the lamb that makes people pure. This ram will be sacrificed to cover over your sins, but the priest will keep the rest of the payment. If any of you Israelites gives a special gift to God, the priest who accepts that gift can keep it for himself. Each priest may keep the gifts he receives. Every gift given to a priest belongs to that priest." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites this: a man's wife might be unfaithful to him. She might have sexual relations with another man and hide this from her husband, and there might not be anyone to tell him that his wife committed this sin. Her husband might never know about the wrong thing she did, and she might not tell her husband about the sin. But the husband might begin to think that his wife sinned against him, whether she has or not. He might become jealous. He might begin to believe that she is not pure and true to him. If that happens, he must take his wife to the priest. The husband must take an offering of 8 cups of barley flour. He must not pour oil or incense on the barley flour. The barley flour is a grain offering to the Lord that is given because the husband is jealous. This offering will show that he thinks his wife has been unfaithful to him. The priest will take the woman before the Lord and make her stand there. Then he will take some special water and put it in a clay jar. He will put some dirt on the floor of the holy tent into the water. He will force the woman to stand before the Lord. Then he will loosen her hair and put the grain offering in her hand. This is the barley flour that her husband gave because he was jealous. At the same time, he will hold the clay jar of special water. This is the special water that can bring trouble to the woman. Then the priest will make the woman promise to tell the truth and say to her, "If you have not slept with another man, and if you have not sinned against your husband while you were married to him, then this water that causes trouble will not hurt you. But if you have sinned against your husband, if you had sexual relations with a man who is not your husband, then you are not pure. If that is true, you will have much trouble when you drink this special water. You will not be able to have any children, and if you are pregnant now, your baby will die." Ew, that's terrible. "And the Lord will cause your people to speak evil of you and curse you." Then the priest must tell the woman to make an oath. She must agree for the Lord to cause these things to happen to her if she lies. Wow. The priest must say, "You must drink this water that causes trouble. If you have sinned, you will not be able to have children. Any baby you will have will die before it is born." And the woman should say, "I agree to do as you say." The priest should write these warnings on a scroll. Then he should wash the words off into the water. Then the woman must drink the water that brings trouble. This water will enter her, and if she is guilty, it will cause her much suffering. Then the priest will take the grain offering from her, the offering for jealousy, and raise it before the Lord, and then he will carry it to the altar. The priest will fill his hands with some of the grain to put it on the altar and let it burn there. After that, he will tell the woman to drink the water. If the woman has sinned against her husband, the water will bring her trouble. The water will go into her body and cause her much suffering. Any baby that is in her will die before it is born, and she will never be able to have children. All these people will turn against her. But if the woman has not sinned against her husband and she is pure, the priest will say that she is not guilty. Then she will be normal and able to have children. So this is the law about jealousy. This is what you should do when a woman sins against her husband while she is married to him, or if the man becomes jealous and thinks his wife has sinned against him. This is what the man should do. The priest must tell her to stand before the Lord. Then the priest will do all these things. This is the law. The husband will not be guilty of doing anything wrong, but the woman will suffer if she has sinned. Goodness gracious me. Just one moment. Okay, now we're going to read Mark chapter 6. Praise the Lord. Jesus left and went back to his hometown. His followers went with him. On the Sabbath day, Jesus taught in the synagogue, and many people heard him. They were amazed and said, "Where did this man get his teaching? How did he get such wisdom? Who gave it to him? And where did he get the power to do miracles? Isn't he just the carpenter we know, Mary's son, the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? And don't his sisters still live here in town?" So they had a problem accepting him. Then Jesus said to them, "People everywhere give honor to a prophet except in his own town, with his own people, or in his home. Jesus was not able to do any miracles there except the healing of some sick people by laying of hands on them. He was surprised that people there had no faith. Then he went to other villages in that area and taught. Jesus called his 12 apostles together. He sent them out in groups of 2 and gave them power over evil spirits. This is what he told them. Take nothing for your trip except a stick for walking. Take no bread, no bag, and no money. You can wear sandals, but don't take extra clothes. When you enter a house, stay there until you leave that town. If any town refuses to accept you or refuses to listen to you, then leave that town and shake the dust off your feet as a warning to them. The apostles left and went to other places. They talked to the people and told them to change their hearts and lives. They forced many demons out of people and put olive oil on many who were sick and healed them. King Herod heard about Jesus because Jesus was now famous. Some people said, "He is John the Baptizer. He must have risen from the dead, and that is why he can do these miracles." Other people said, "He is Elijah." And others said, "He is a prophet. He is like the prophets who lived long ago." Herod heard these things about Jesus. He said, "I killed John by cutting off his head. Now he has been raised from the dead." Herod himself had ordered his soldiers to arrest John and put him in prison. Herod did this to please his wife Herodias. She had been married to Herod's brother Philip, but then Herod married her. John told Herod, "It is not right for you to be married to your brother's wife." So Herodias hated John. She wanted him dead, but she was not able to persuade Herod to kill him. Herod was afraid to kill John because he knew that he was a good and holy man, so he protected him. He liked listening to John, although what John said left him with so many questions. Then the right time came for Herodias to cause John's death. It happened on Herod's birthday. Herod gave a dinner party for the most important governors, government leaders, the commanders of his army, and the most important people in Galilee. The daughter of Herodias came to the party and danced. When she danced, Herod and the people eating with him were very pleased. So King Herod said to the girl, "I will give you anything you want," he promised her. "Anything you ask, I will give to you, even half of the kingdom." The girl went to her mother and asked, "What should I ask King Herod to give me?" Her mother answered, "Ask for the head of John the Baptizer." So right then, the girl went back into the king and said to him, "Please give me the head of John the Baptizer. Bring it to me now on a plate." King Herod was very sad, but he didn't want to break the promise. Oh my gosh. So he had made to her in front of his guests. So he sent a soldier out to cut off John's head and bring it to him. The soldier went and cut off John's head in prison. He brought the head back on a plate and gave it to the girl, and the girl gave it to her mother. John's followers heard about what happened, so they came and got John's body and put it in a tomb. The apostles Jesus had sent out came back to him. They gathered around him and told him all about what they had done and taught. Jesus and his followers were in a very busy place. There were so many people that he and his followers did not even have time to eat. He said to them, "Come with me. We will go to a quiet place to be alone. There we will get some rest." So Jesus and his followers went away alone. They went in a boat to a place where no one lived, but many people saw them leave and knew who they were. So people from every town ran to the place where they were going and got there before Jesus. As Jesus stepped out of the boat, he saw a large crowd waiting. He felt sorry for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd to care for them. So he taught the people many things. It was now very late in the day. Jesus' followers came to him and said, "No one lives around here, and it is already very late. So send the people away. They need to go to the farms and towns around here to buy some food to eat." But Jesus answered, "You will give them some food to eat." They said to Jesus, "We can't buy enough food to feed all these people. We would all have to work a month to earn enough to buy that much bread." Jesus asked them, "How many loaves of bread do you have now? Go and see." They counted their loaves of bread. They came to Jesus and said, "We have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." Then Jesus said to them, "Tell everyone to sit in groups on the green grass." So all the people sat in groups. There were about 50 to 100 people in each group. Jesus took the 5 loaves and 2 fish. He looked up to the sky and thanked God for the food. Then he broke the bread into pieces, which he gave to his followers to distribute to the people. Then he divided the 2 fish among everyone there. They all ate until they were full. After they finished eating, the followers filled 12 baskets with pieces of bread and fish that were left. There were about 5,000 men there who ate. I wonder how many men there didn't eat. Then Jesus told the followers to get into the boat. He told them to go to the other side of the lake to Bethsaida. He said he would come later. He stayed there to tell everyone they could go home. After he said goodbye to them, he went up into the hills to pray. That night the boat was still in the middle of the lake. Jesus was alone on the land. He saw the boat far away on the lake. He saw the followers working hard to row the boat. The wind was blowing against them. Sometime between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning, Jesus went out to the boat, walking on the water. He continued walking until he was almost past the boat. But the followers saw Jesus walking on water. They thought he was a ghost, and they started screaming. It scared them all to see him. But he spoke to them and said, "Don't worry, it's me. Don't be afraid." When he got into the boat with the followers, the wind stopped. The followers were completely amazed. They could not believe what happened. It was like a miracle he did with the bread. They didn't understand what that meant. Jesus and his followers went across the lake and came to the shore of Gennesaret. They tied the boat there. When they were out of the boat, the people there saw Jesus. They knew who he was, so they ran to tell others throughout the area. They brought sick people on mats to every place Jesus went. Jesus went into towns, cities and farms around that area, and every place he went, the people brought sick people to the marketplaces. They begged him to let them touch any part of his coat, and all those who touched him were healed. And that is goodbye from me.